Um, it's time to talk. Now, I know this might feel awkward, but your learning goes through changes as you transition from being a GCSE student to becoming an A-level student. I've realised you're old enough now to think for yourself, but I want to give you advice. Uh, I think that it is time for us to talk about the surds and the factor trees. Now, if you feel embarrassed, just ask me questions afterwards at any time. Okay, I'm here for you. Now, I know that when you and your friends are your age, your friends are doing surds and you might feel left out. I know that like particular friends might be pressuring you into doing surds and weird things with surds. And I bet that you hear all kinds of things about surds on TV and on the news. I just want to give you some useful knowledge so you approach surds with more confidence. Now, you might know this answer already, but what is a surd? Well, a surd, it's something that you cannot simplify to get rid of a square root. So, let's take the square root of 8, for instance. Now, you can simplify that so you can have 2 root 2, but you can't simplify the root 2 any further than that. So if you cannot simplify a number to remove a square root, then you have a surd. Now, let's draw the factor tree for the number inside this surd. Now, let's have the square root of 12. And I'm going to draw out the factor tree underneath for the square root of 12. So, 12 is 2 times 6. And 6 is 2 times 3. So, we have got factors of 2, 2, and 3. So we can say that the square root of 12 equals 2 times 2 times 3. Now, you might notice that this is equal to the square root of 2 squared times 3. And another way of writing that is the square root of 2 squared times the square root of 3. Now, this number that's squared inside a square root, we can change this, we can simplify it down, because square rooting is just the opposite of squaring. So, this number here, the 2, can be just freed of a square root. So we've now got 2 lots of the square root of 3. So we've simplified a surd using its factor tree. Now, let's get a bit more daring. Let's add 2 surds together. So how about the square root of 128 plus the square root of 8. Now, 128 is quite a big number, but you've got to know that size doesn't matter. So, 128 can be written as 2 times 64. 64 can be written as 2 times 32. 32 can be written as 2 times 16. 16 can be written as 2 times 8. 8 as 2 times 4. And 4 as 2 times 2. Now, think back to what I was saying before about these squared numbers being able to be taken outside of the square root. So let's see how many numbers occur in pairs as factors, numbers which can be squared together. So we've got these as our factors. Now, we have got one pair of 2's here, one pair of 2's here, and a third pair of 2's. So, ignoring the plus square root of 8 for a sec, we can say that the square root of 128 equals several lots of 2 squared. So we've got 3 lots of 2 squared. That's 2 squared all cubed times 2. 2 is the leftover one, the one that never found a pair. And that's perfectly all right in a number. You don't need to find a pair. So, another way of writing this would be the square root of 2 cubed squared times 2. Now, we can split these up into separate surds, separate square roots. So, we've got the square root of 2 to the power of 3 squared times the square root of 2. So, like I was saying before, this number here, 2 cubed, can be free of the surds now, because we've got a squaring happening here and a square rooting happening here, and they cancel each other out. So, we've got 2 cubed lots of root 2. And that is the same as saying 8 lots of root 2, because 2 cubed is 8. Now, let's think about our sum once again. So, we've got 128 plus the square root of 8. And that's the same thing as saying 8 root 2, as we've just seen, is 128 square rooted, plus the square root of 8. Now let's see if we can simplify the square root of 8. So, taking a factor tree of the surd once again, 8 equals 2 times 4, and 4 equals 2 times 2. So, we've got 3 factors and 1 pair of factors, 1 pair of identical factors. So, we can say that the square root of 8 equals the square root of 2 squared times 2, which equals the square root of 2 squared times the square root of 2, which equals, of course, because we've got a squaring going on here and a square rooting cancelling that out, we have got 2 lots of root 2. So, I can rewrite this square root of 8 as 2 root 2. So, we now have the sum 8 lots of root 2 plus 2 lots of root 2. So, we've taken something that looks like we can't simplify it any further on the left and made it so they have something in common. Now, 8 lots of something plus 2 lots of something equals 10 lots of the square root of 2. Now, I hope that this helps you out. I don't want you to get into trouble just because you made a decision with some surds, a bad decision that will affect the rest of your life. You've got to be sensible with this, even though I know it's quite fun. So remember, Find pairs of factors that you can then take outside of the square root. Now, remember, ask me anytime if you want some advice. Goodbye.